We're live now, Chairman.
Good morning again, colleagues, and welcome to members of the public and to those who are joining us online to today's meeting of the local review body. Before I start the meeting properly, I'm going to read out an official statement to say that members and all attendees are advised that the public business in this meeting is being live streamed for public view and also recorded. By participating in the meeting, attendees give consent for this. The recording will be available through the link to the event live stream on the Council website for public viewing for 180 days afterwards. The recording will be automatically deleted after this time. And I would remind everyone that the Council does not allow any other recording of the meeting other than this one. Thank you. Okay, turning back to the agenda, we have apologies, I believe, from Councillor Orr and Councillor Moffat.
And Councillor Cox, Chair.
And Councillor Cox, yes, thank you. So, item 2, order of business. That is as set out on the agenda, and I will look to having a comfort break round about 11 o'clock, depending on how the discussion goes. Item 3, declarations of interest. I remind colleagues that if you have an interest you wish to declare, you can do so now or wait till the relevant item comes up on the agenda. So, turning to our first appeal of the day, which is item 4, and this is to review the refusal in respect of change of use of a barn alterations and extension to former dwelling house at the barn southwest of Kerndean Farmhouse, Kerndean Farm, Newcastleton. And Mr. Shearer will talk us through this.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. I have reviewed the appointed officer's report of handling, and I am content that the appropriate policies have been highlighted, and these are copied in full with your papers, including policies and supplementary guidance on housing in the countryside and quality standards. In the notice of review form, the applicant has ticked the box to seek further procedure in the form of written submissions, a hearing session and a site inspection. Should you deem an inspection to be necessary, the site can be viewed from public land and there are no barriers to the site cannot be viewed from public land and there are barriers to entry in the form of crossing a working farm. It is at your discretion to determine whether any further procedure is necessary, including any site inspection. No new information has been provided with this review. By way of planning history associated with the site, there is none. So the reason this application was refused, it was on 4 grounds. The first being that it has not been proven whether structurally that the building is capable of conversion and that the alterations and extensions are out of keeping with the character of the existing building. The means of access would adversely affect road safety. Insufficient ecological appraisals have been provided to demonstrate that the works would not harm protected species or their habitats. And finally, that insufficient information has been provided to demonstrate that the proposal will not harm the ecological status of the woodland resources surrounding the site. And the contributions these resources, such as the mature trees, make to the surrounding environment. We can now run through some slides. Okay, thanks, Fiona. Okay, so the application site is the extent of the white line shown here. So the building in question that's proposed to be converted is located in here. A structure with the kind of brown coloured roof that you have there. You can see it's set within currently a wooded area. There's access is provided to the site from both the south at this point here and also further north, which we can see on the next slide. Directly to the west, which would be the public road that provides access to the site. This is the minor road from Hobcuck down towards Newcastleton, and you'll see that there's a water course. It's the Liddell Water, lies further west, and otherwise it is kind of surrounding farming land that is used, along with some wooded areas also close to the site. So here is just a kind of a zoomed out aerial. This time the site is shown with this kind of turquoise blue colour. So this is the main kind of steading of Currandine, which is located here, with the southern access point shown kind of more clearly here with the public road continuing north, and then that second access point would be along this route here through the existing steading and then connecting onto the public road here, but it's my understanding that it's intention that the kind of main point of access would be to the south of the site, but there's this option of also accessing the site from its northern point as well. So here is the existing building in question. As you'll see, it's a former barn building that is set into a mound. The building is certainly intact, up to wall head height, and it's probably likely at some point the building has been re-roofed. It's currently got a corrugated profile steel roof on top of the building, but otherwise it is kind of windstone walls. You'll see there's a large opening to the front and also an opening on the rear elevation as well that we'll pick up in some subsequent images. And obviously looking at the vegetation that currently surrounds the building as well. So really kind of key things to look at when you're looking at the photographs here are really, I guess, the footprint of the existing building, its condition, its form. Obviously it's a tall building, certainly from this side, kind of set under a pitch roof, and also its character. And I guess you should start to think about really how suitable you think a structure such as this would be for residential use. So moving on, this is just that image to the front there, looking into the large opening on this side of the building, and you can kind of view through and see the opening on the rear elevation. There are no other openings on either side of the building. And then just a view from the rear with that kind of upper level opening, and obviously noting that the ground level is different to that from the other side, where the kind of back is kind of set into that mound, and again the kind of wooded features that certainly surround the building on this side also. So these are just the existing plans. Again, just kind of confirming what you have seen in the photographs with that kind of large or tall front elevation shown here. One of the side elevations with the other side elevation shown here, and then the rear elevation below. And here is the footprint of the existing building. So it currently would be shown as being 4.6 meters wide by 10 meters in length. And obviously this confirms that there are no openings on either side of the building other than to the front and to the rear. So this is the site plan. So it would show that this is the access road from here, and the existing access track with the Newcastleton to Hoyk, or Hobcuck and almost to Hoyk public road to the west, and a small water course runs along this side to the north of the building as well, and that feeds into the Liddell Water. And so here you have the existing building is here with this thicker black line, and then what is shown here is proposed extensions that would be added, kind of wrapping around the kind of middle to back end of the building in order to assist with the proposed conversion to a dwelling unit. So looking at the proposed elevation plan, so effectively this would have been what I've kind of previously referred to as the front elevation. So that was your kind of tall pitch roof elevation shown here. So that would effectively, the existing opening would be retained at this level, and you would have a kind of balcony up at the kind of first floor level here with those kind of wrap-around extensions. Now those would be kind of set back slightly from the front elevation with a kind of stepped access shown. But obviously you're looking at the form of the extensions. So previously we had a kind of pitch roofed structure here. That would be kind of effectively changed to a lean-to roof shown here, which then kind of ties in to a wider kind of pitch roof, but a shallower pitch roofed extension, which is kind of set up at that kind of elevated level, effectively on the mound that the building is set into. So that's kind of shown here by this northeastern elevation. So you'd have had the kind of balcony area here, and that would be the kind of mono-pitched area where it can then kind of feeds in to the pitch roof, the kind of shallower pitch roof structure shown here with them. So these are the kind of extensions towards the northeast shown on this side. And then down below that is the opposite side elevation. It shows you the kind of, I guess, the fall of the roof in this direction, how that kind of ties in to the rest of the extension that would extend out from the kind of narrower host building, if you like. And then looking at the rear elevation, that is now all extension. So that extends out from that pitch roof elevation with the kind of smaller, kind of possibly kind of hayloft type door that's presently on this side of the building. With that kind of shallower roof pitched. So by way of material finishes, the roof of the development would be clad in kind of metal sheeting also, and with larch cladding on the extension area, and then the existing kind of stone, which is certainly to be retained on parts of the structure that are currently there, that are proposed for conversion. So just looking at some site plans, what you have here is the kind of carport at kind of ground level, if you like, and then this would be a kind of single level in the middle of the building, providing a kind of bedroom with bathroom kind of ensuite area, and then up above is the main living accommodation. So you're effectively, this would be the kind of footprint of the existing structure, again currently within the existing structure, and then this area up above kind of starts to kind of feed in to the extension above, with this area being the kind of wraparound extension, extending out from the footprint of that existing building with a kind of terraced area to the front, and providing your main living accommodation with living room, dining area, a couple of bedrooms, also kind of kitchen and utility space as well. So we'll just leave it on that, and we're just now making a flip between these as we kind of move through. So by way of consultations and representations, you will see that there are numerous consultation responses, and these are provided within your papers, which are available in full. So it is of relevance to note that roads planning objected, and further information was also requested by your ecology and landscape officer, and I will revert to these points further within my presentation. By way of supporting information, the review has been supported by an appeal statement, again available within your papers. So by way of principal issues, so this proposal is required to be principally assessed against development plan policy provisions covering the conversion of rural buildings to residential accommodation, in particular policy HD2 of the LDP Part C, policy 17 of NPF 4, and detailed advice on this topic within the New Housing in the Borders Countryside SPG. So the officer accepted that the building does have some historic and architectural merit. However, that does not automatically mean that it should be converted. Although the building stands intact, the application has not been supported by a structural survey to confirm if the structure is in a sound condition and that the existing fabric can indeed be reused as noted by criteria B of the LDP policy conversions, or policy on conversions. Even in the absence of a structural survey, the modest footprint of the existing building means that in order to accommodate a residential use at the site, that the proposal relies on the need for significant extensions and alterations to accommodate the residential use. And this fails to respect the scale, form, and character of the existing building. The officer remains of the view that while extensions may be possible as part of a conversion project, planning policies and guidance seek to ensure that the building which justifies the conversion in the first place remains the principal structure. The scale of the extensions required is tantamount to building a new house in the countryside, and ultimately this suggests that the size of the building is actually not physically suited for residential use. Informed by the objection from roads planning, although 2 points of access may be available, the southern junction was observed not to achieve suitable visibility due to the bend in the public road, and the northern access does not allow a car to turn into the site to be seen by oncoming vehicles. This results in the proposal failing to provide safe access contrary to LDP policy PMD2 criteria Q. So due to the condition of the building and its location close to woodland, the ecology officer identified that the site may provide a habitat for bats. As you are aware, bats are a European protected species, and against the relevant protected species legislation, a preliminary roost assessment would be required to be carried out before any potential approval to convert this building. Given the issue with the principle of the proposal, a bat survey was not formally requested by your appointed officer during the processing of the application. Thus, from a planning policy perspective, it was not possible to confirm that the development would indeed not harm protected species. Finally, it was also determined that the proposal failed to ensure that the development would not result in the serious loss of mature trees near to the site, which contribute to its woodland setting, as well as providing ecological interest. In response to these reasons for objection, the applicant advises that it was their intention to seek planning permission in principle. On request to change the proposal to a full application, only indicative drawings were submitted. No weight in the assessment by the officer has been given to the benefit of reusing the existing structure to help meet housing demand and the intention of the development to meet sustainability principles as promoted by the Scottish Government. No requests were made to provide a structural survey or relevant ecological and protected species surveys, and is advised that the existing access to the south is currently in use, and it would be possible to provide modest improvements at the junction involving adjacent land that is in control of the applicants, and that the only woodland near the site is in fact a commercial plantation. So other matters were considered during the assessment of the proposal, including matters covering contaminated land, site services, residential amenity, flooding, archaeology and developer contributions, although none were material in the determination of this proposal, and where necessary, these matters could be addressed by planning conditions in the event of any approval. So in summary, it seems to me that the key matter is whether you consider that the building, and in particular its size and layout, is physically suitable for conversion to a dwelling house. And if so, are the proposed extensions and alterations in keeping with the scale and architectural character of the existing building, and allowing the proposal to comply with all criteria listed within A to C of LDP Policy HD2 Part C, Policy 17 of NPF 4 and the Housing in the Countryside SPG. Should you agree with the appointed officer that the principle of the proposal is not acceptable, then you should uphold their decision. If you consider that the conversion, or alternatively, if you consider that the conversion may be suitable and road safety matters could be addressed, and the proposal would not result in the loss of mature trees, then it is advised that you indicate that you support the principle of the development, provided you are content that a structural survey is not necessary, and subject to seeking or subject to continuing the appeal to seek a relevant bat survey for your consideration prior to your overall determination. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shearer. Colleagues, just open it up for discussion, and I'm going to turn first of all to Councillor Richards.
Thanks, Chairman. That's not an ordinary field barn. I had a completely different sort of image of what I expect here. It's obviously old, but it's very difficult to see what they want to do there without a structural survey, which would either say this is impossible or within the realms of getting something done. So the paperwork we get, the HD2C, it's quite clear that this is not going to be a building that fits in with any particular building. So site visit might be an idea to get a bigger picture, but I don't know. It's a difficult one.
Thank you, Councillor Richards. We'll hold that suggestion of a site visit for the moment and see what other members feel. Councillor Douglas.
Yes, thank you. I am concerned at the lack of structural survey. I think that would have been vital to see whether the actual building is suitable for this kind of adaptation. However, from the design submitted, it would appear that the extensions far outweigh the original building, and that really we're talking about a new building, a new house in the countryside, rather than an adaptation of this existing barn. So I don't think it would really match the area or match the original building as such. I think it would be out of keeping. I think officers have it spot on here.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Councillor Small.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with my fellow councillors. I think this is not ideal for a conversion, to tell you the truth. I think what they're proposing is to wrap round a house round this existing barn, and it's not been proved that this barn is suitable for conversion, the foundations. And it's not ideal built into a banking either, in my opinion. I think it's not the ideal place for this, and I agree with the officer's decision on this. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm quite sympathetic to the position that the applicants found themselves in. And I think the idea and principle about reusing buildings is really good. However, the scale of the extension in this instance, I don't think is supported by HD2 policy C. It's actually almost double what we've got in the original building. And I think, as Councillor Richards pointed out, the policy also asks for the structural survey, and we don't have that. So there is information missing. But I think the scale of what has been asked for me, there is no getting around that. So we could postpone till our other information to come in, but the scale's not going to change. So for me, that's the overriding sticking point. So I think the officers have called this right. I think there may have been work to look at the entrance, access and egress points. I think there might have been time to do something around that. But for me, I can't get past the fact that the scale of the extension is just too big. And so I think the officers have called this right.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. And Councillor Scott.
Well, thank you, Chair. I seem to be at odds with the rest of the committee this morning. This is a very dilapidated building. What are we going to do with it? Are we going to let it fall down, or are we going to spend money on it? To me, and Kerrendine is the back beyond. It's way down Newcastle. Not many people are going to see it at all. The roads department are wondering about the roads. Well, it's on a B road. It's, Newcastle is not an A7 or anything like that. I think it's a very exciting development, to quite honestly. Somebody is prepared to spend their own money not Neil's or yours, Whitman, their own money on this. We have a housing emergency, as Viv keeps on. So I'm inclined to give permission, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. I would agree that this there is a possibility. It would be. Start again. It should be possible to be able to convert this building, which obviously has character and historical interest. But the proposed development, setting aside for the moment that we haven't got a structural survey, so we don't even know whether the building is capable of being converted. But setting that aside for the moment, I think the proposed conversion or the proposed extensions would actually destroy the character of the building that's there, because it would be out of keeping with the character and scale of the original building, and therefore you are tantamount to building a new house in the countryside. So on balance, I think the officers have got this right. I would encourage the applicants to go back and think of a new form of extension and of making this building work for them, but retaining the historical character. This is an ancient building in the countryside, and its architectural character should be preserved in some respect, if that's possible. So on that note, Councillor Scott, are you willing to propose that we overturn the officer's decision, if you can find a seconder?
I think I've done the maths, Chair, and I think I'll be voted out. Was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think.
Right.
I'll abstain.
Councillor Douglas, would you like to propose that we uphold the officer's decision?
Yes, I would. I propose that.
And Councillor Richards, would you like to second that? Thank you. So on that basis, I think that we are agreed that we uphold the officer's decision in this case. Thank you. Right, we'll turn now to our second appeal today, which is a review of the refusal in respect of the erection of a residential studio and garage ancillary to the main dwelling house on land west of Greenhouse Farm Cottage at Melrose, which I actually think is in the Selkirk ward, but that's neither here nor there. Mr. Shearer.
Thank you, Chair, and I would like to agree with your with your observations on the address of the property. But yes, I guess that's what it's listed as. So, but other way, I'm content that this review has for an ancillary accommodation in the form of a studio and garage associated with the Greenhouse Farm Cottage has been correctly submitted, and that the appropriate policies have been highlighted, and these are copied in full with your papers, including policies on matters covering greenfield development, sustainability, and also place making. So in the notice of review form, the applicant has ticked the box to seek further procedure in the form of written submissions, a hearing session, and also a site inspection. Should you deem an inspection to be necessary, the site can be viewed from public land and there are no barriers to entry. It is at your discretion to determine whether any further procedure is indeed necessary. And I can advise that no new information has been provided with this review. The site does not have any planning history. By ways of reasons for refusal for the application, it was refused on grounds that the siting of the development was located out with the curtilage of the residential property, which includes the need to form a separate access and parking facilities. Therefore, this represents an unsustainable form of development of greenfield land, and that the siting scale and design of the two buildings have a poor relationship with the existing dwelling house and therefore fail to respect the character of the rural area. We can now run through some slides. Okay, so just looking at the aerial slide, so Greenhouse Farm Cottage is located on the kind of northeastern side of the public road. I think it's a B-class road, which connects Lilies Leaf onwards to Minto, and so existing dwelling house is shown here, set within its plot, otherwise surrounded by agricultural land. Some mature planting encloses the site. Existing outbuilding garage accommodation is located here. The application site itself is on the opposite side of the road, shown by this white line. Overhead power lines kind of run through the field in which the site is contained. The ground currently appears to be used for and provide some ancillary kind of extra curtilage space that is enjoyed by the residential property of Greenhouse Farm Cottage on the opposite side of the road. Again, just looking at a kind of wider aerial, just to give you a kind of picture of the context. So yeah, obviously the residential property located here. This time the site is within that kind of turquoisey blue line shown here, which, as you can see, set within an otherwise set within a field. The main kind of greenhouse farm holding located here, obviously with the public road kind of dissecting the site and also the residential property on the opposite side. So again, kind of things to look at here, I guess, is the kind of the pattern of development, and I guess where existing kind of buildings and structures are sited, really within this otherwise kind of rural area. So now we'll turn into some site photos. So this is a view from the public road looking into the site. So it's currently a gated access that provides egress into the site. The site is enclosed by a mature hedge, which wraps around the extent of the site, and that's the kind of back end of the site there. You can look onwards into the open field. So this is the existing cottage itself. Probably at some time has been two properties, but it's now amalgamated into one. Very much a traditional rural cottage. A side extension has been added, and a garage set back from the residential plot. Access provided from the main road via this gated point here, which is otherwise set behind a traditional stone wall, providing enclosure from the public road. And now a view along the public road itself. Obviously, the residential property on the left-hand side, with the application site shown on the right-hand side. This opening here was the area of the gated access, and it is proposed to almost kind of formalise the space that is kind of tucked behind this hedge to accommodate a garage and also some ancillary accommodation. So now looking at the proposed plans. So firstly, this would be the garage. So this would be served by a new access point, which is formed from the public road here. So there's this kind of dashed green line. That is the line of the existing hedge. So that would be required to be removed in order to provide the access and also the sufficient visibility area as well. The visibility display from the point of access. So you have a kind of garage with kind of side on to the public road, space for two cars, and also kind of hard standing turning area. That in itself is shown to be enclosed by some planting. And then within this part of site, it's proposed to sites an ancillary building that would provide an additional bedroom with shower and also kitchen and living space. These are both just single-story structures. So this would be accessed via the existing, kind of close to the existing field gate, but obviously that would be kind of moved back following the removal of the hedge, which is proposed to then be replanted, set behind the visibility display. So we're now looking at some elevation drawings. So the garage first. So this would be the front elevation of the garage, if you like, that kind of faces on to the parking area. So you've got just a simple kind of double type garage door. As you'll note, the building is of a mono-pitched form, set under a sedum roof with larch cladding on all sides. There's no other openings on the garage other than on this elevation. And down below that is the rear elevation that would face kind of back towards the ancillary accommodation, which in itself is to be enclosed by some boundary hedging. And now looking at the ancillary accommodation, so this would be the long elevation, if you like, that would face towards the garage or towards the back of the garage. So you have kind of openings that are set under a slight kind of, I think it's a slight recess in there that is shown, but again very much a similar form to the garage building, whereby it's also a mono pitch design, sedum roof, larch cladding, and then you have some kind of larger areas of glazing. So this would be the end elevation that faces away from the public road. So it's the access point here. So it's kind of facing down into the additional garden area. And then you have the rear elevation shown below here, with just a single kind of high level window opening. And I guess kind of importantly, these are the elevations that are shown from the roadside, which would show the new hedge once fully matured, enclosing both buildings. And effectively, that would be what you would see from the public road itself. And then just below, you have an image which shows the proposed ancillary accommodation with the garage as well, without the hedging shown there. So that may be what you get during the time once the hedge itself is planted and takes time to certainly mature. So again, just the final slide, I think. So this is again just confirming the site plan itself, with the roofing details shown this time under the sedum roof, and then just below, actually, even though it's at a smaller scale, it's quite a helpful detail, this, because it shows you the relationship of the proposed development with the ancillary accommodation here and the garage here, with the dwelling house located on the opposite side. So this is the extent of the existing residential plot shown here, and then the extent of the application site located here, with obviously the public road separating the two in between. And finally, that's just your access detail shown at a kind of higher spec at the top corner. By way of consultations and representations, one third-party comment has been received that cited some concerns about the relationship of the proposal to the existing dwelling, the potential for use of the ancillary accommodation as a separate dwelling unit, which would be contrary to housing in the countryside policies, and the provision of existing accommodation already being available within the existing site to serve the intended uses. So Roads Planning have not objected to this proposal, subject to conditions to agree the precise details of access and also the parking area, with the requirement to provide the visibility display before development commences. So the review has been supported by an appeal statement along with the supporting papers, detailed drawings that you have seen. So looking at the principal issues. So the site is not allocated within your local development plan. Therefore, key policies for you to consider are those covering greenfield sites, specifically NPF 4 Policy 9, Sustainability Matters, within LDP Policy PMD1, and design considerations noted NPF 4 Policy 14 and LDP Policy PMD2. So your appointed officer assessed that although the land is under control of the applicants and that it is enclosed from the wider field by hedging, that it is physically separate from the main dwelling unit located on the opposite side of the road, where it does not form part of the curtilage associated with Greenhouse Farm Cottage and is therefore a greenfield site. The siting of a studio, which has been referenced as the ancillary accommodation, the siting of this studio and garage, which requires its own independent access and parking area, creates independent accommodation that is clearly severed from the existing residential unit. The proposal draws no specific support from policies within the LDP, therefore it would represent an unjustified form of development of greenfield land that NPF 4 Policy 9 Criteria B explicitly seeks to guard against. So the buildings were judged to have a sizable footprint, and coupled with their need for a large entrance with visibility display, this adds to the visual impact of the overall development. The flat roof design may limit the height of the buildings, however, their contemporary appearance does not relate to the traditional form and character of the existing house. So the siting of the development on the opposite side of the road was judged to harm the character of the area and would appear as a sporadic form of development. So these impacts would be exacerbated during the period which the hedging is removed to form the visibility display, and it is likely that the new hedge wouldn't provide full screening. So the applicants advise that the site is not open agricultural land and it has been used as garden ground associated with Greenhouse Farm Cottage for in excess of 20 years for amenity purposes. The applicants are seeking to develop an additional parking area with garaging on the opposite side of the road to safely park cars off the carriageway and a small studio to enhance enjoyment of their garden space. So the restrictive nature of the development on land surrounding the house means that these additions cannot be accommodated on the same side of the road as the applicant's existing dwelling. They would, however, accept a condition to ensure that accommodation is tied to the dwelling house. From a visual perspective, they consider that structures have been designed to be subservient to the residential property and that their simple form and siting back from the public road ensures that they are not visually prominent. The development will be enclosed by new mature hedge that once fully established would provide screening and, along with the green roofs, increase the biodiversity value of the site. So other matters were considered in respect of access, site services and residential amenity, and where necessary, these issues could be addressed by planning condition. So members, it would appear to me that the main issue for you to consider is concerned with the siting of the development. While the land is under control of the applicants and may be used for their enjoyment, it does represent greenfield land, which against Policy 9 Criteria B of NPF 4 can only be developed in exceptional circumstances where the site is allocated in your local development plan or the proposal is explicitly supported by other policies in your LDP. You have already heard that the site is not allocated, therefore do you consider that the development of ancillary accommodation that is incidental to an existing dwelling house draws any clear policy support from elsewhere within your LDP? If you do, then you should consider against NPF 4 Policy 14 and Local Plan Policy PMD2, whether the siting scale and appearance and also the design of the proposal represents a high quality development that respects its rural environment and has a suitable relationship with the associated dwelling house. Taking this and all other relevant matters into account, you may either uphold the appointed officer's decision and reject the proposal or overturn the decision and approve the development subject to any conditions you deem necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shearer. Councillor Thompson, would you like to lead off on this?
Thank you, Chair. It was for me, it seemed quite an unusual ask and quite a lot of development to use your garden better. I didn't get that. I can see maybe running across the road to bring stuff over, but actually the creation of an independent living space, it just seemed a lot, and I think it's lacking support with policies. if we're considering it as green space, then actually the PMD2 is quite clear on what is needed, and I don't think that this is the right development. I'm not quite sure why additional parking is on the site. I get you've got space, try and make use of it, but this is like trying to create a new house on a piece of land. It's not in the LDP anyway, so therefore building on it, it should have fallen at that hurdle, I think. It is a tricky one because I can understand somebody's desire to make better use of what they've got, but a summer house would have been maybe less hassle, much cheaper. I don't think this is the right application. I don't think it fulfills the criteria for the planning policies that we have. And I do think the officers have called it right. I think the scale of what they're putting into that space is quite large. I don't think it fits in the proposed design. I don't think it fits in with sort of chocolate box type of cottage that it's linked to. So all in all, I'm not supportive of this application, and I think the officers have made the right decision to support the officers.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Chair. I think this application is contrary to Policy 9 of the National Planning Framework 4 and Policy PMD1 of the Local Development Plan, in that it will constitute an unsustainable and inappropriate development on a greenfield site within the countryside. So uphold the officer's decision.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Douglas.
Yes, thank you. I think the inescapable view is that it's not part of the curtilage of the property. It's across the road in what is essentially a field, although part of that field has been utilised as garden space, though nonetheless it is part of the field still. It is greenfield space. I think the size of the buildings are out of character with the existing house, and there is no relationship between the two. I don't think it's ancillary building at all. It's essentially a separate dwelling house we're talking about here. It has all the facilities of a house, and with the extra parking as well. That shows that there is no relationship with the original building, because you're not even talking about the parking being within the existing grounds. This is across the road as well. So, no, I think officers have called it exactly right on this one.
Councillor Douglas. Councillor Small.
Yeah, I think most of my feelings have been stated. I think I would have been more sympathetic if this had been adjacent to the current cottage on the same side of the road. What we have here is you're breaking out into a greenfield site, which could bring more development within that site, possibility. But I think it's the wrong place for it, and it's not within the LDP. And I think the officers called it right on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Richards.
Thanks, Chairman. Yeah, I can't disagree with anything I've heard so far, and it's quite clear. MBF4 number 9, it says, significant alterations of character will only be considered when it can be demonstrated that these provide environmental benefit. Well, apart from everything else, it really doesn't benefit anybody, does it? I mean, it's on the other side of the road. You've got more parking area. No, I support the officers.
Thank you, Councillor Richards. Thank you, colleagues. I think there is unanimity in the committee that this is not an appropriate development and that the officers have called it right. So are we agreed to that we uphold the officer's decision? Thank you very much. Now, it's 10 to 11. Does anybody want a comfort break, or shall we just bash on with the final? Yes, I'm getting whispers here that a comfort break would be appreciated. So, okay, we'll have a short comfort break. If you could be back here by 11 o'clock, that would be really helpful. Thank you. Just wait while the live stream is paused.
Live now, Chair.
Welcome back to today's meeting of the local review body. And we turn now to item 6 on the agenda, our third appeal, which is for the review of the refusal in respect of the erection of garage on land north and northeast of Belsey's Cottage, Jedburgh. And Mr. Shearer, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm content that the review has been correctly submitted and that the appropriate policies have been highlighted, and these are copied in full with your papers, including policies on matters covering greenfield development, sustainability, placemaking and road safety. In the notice of review form, the applicant has advised that the review can continue without any further procedure. Should you deem a site inspection to be necessary, the site can be viewed from public land and there are no barriers to entry. It is at your discretion to determine whether further procedure is required. I can advise that no new information has been submitted with this review. So by way of planning history, so consent was granted on appeal by this local review body for the erection of a dwelling house in planning permission in principle terms on this site. To date, no detailed application has been submitted, but this permission remains live. A copy of this decision is available in your papers, and I'll also touch on it further within this presentation. So the reasons this application for a garage on the land was refused, it was on grounds that the siting and scale of the garage constitutes the inappropriate and unsustainable development of a greenfield site, and also road safety matters. We can now run through some slides. Right, so the application, it's located at the hamlet, I guess, known as Belsey's. So this is the aerial image. So the site being contained within the white line shown here. So access is provided from this point, which is just off the kind of minor road, close to the kind of main road that kind of runs through Belsey's, that connects Ancrum onwards to Lily's Leaf. So the land itself, the wider field in which the application is located, that rises towards the east, where it is enclosed by mature trees. The existing outbuilding is located here. So importantly, Belsey's Cottage. This is this property here. So this is the dwelling unit that would be associated with this proposal. Effectively, who the garage is proposed to serve. So as you'll see, there's already at least one outbuilding is located within the curtilage of Belsey's Cottage, which is approximately this here, the extent of the property. So there is an existing field access that is proposed to serve this garage, so it would have a separate access to the property of Belsey's itself, where I think the main access point is located in here. So just looking at a wider area of Belsey's itself, so the site itself is located here, and again this will be Belsey's Cottage here. So you have a relatively new build residential property on the opposite side of the minor road, located here. Obviously the wider field that the proposal is contained within. The outbuilding located kind of sporadically along this side of the field, and other dwelling houses located to the north and here, as well as also here. So the site itself forms part of an area of land, approximately this area here, where planning permission remains live in planning permission principle terms to erect a new build dwelling house, a single house, on this area of land here. And something else. I think that's it. Yeah, effectively that's it. No, I tell you, that's the other thing I was going to mention, sorry, is there's also consent for 2 new houses on the opposite side of the road located here as well. So clearly out with this application site, but just to give you context that there's permission for 2 new houses here, which I think were also approved by the LRB, and also a separate dwelling unit here. So this application site doesn't take up all of the site where permission exists for a single dwelling house. So now looking at some site images from the winter time. So looking into the land where the proposed garage is to be erected. So this would be your point of access located here, with the garage would be approximately in this position here. So Belsey's Cottage, you can just about make it out. That's going through the tree located here, and you can kind of make out the extent of the residential curtilage. It kind of runs around here and then kind of abuts the public road as it continues on, and then otherwise you have this kind of field area, which granted does benefit from planning permission for a new house. You can pick up the separate dwelling unit in the distance shown here, and just off this slide on approximately around here is just around this corner. This is the location of the kind of new build contemporary dwelling that has been constructed. So just looking kind of through, you can't quite see the site from here, but this is Belsey's Cottage in the foreground here. So this site would be just through past on the opposite side of the curtilage for Belsey's Cottage. So the point of access kind of just round the corner from this kind of picket fence, just round here in your point of access. So the garage would be approximately stand in this position here within the field. And then just a view kind of further from the north east, kind of looking back towards the site. So you can appreciate, I guess, the topography of the land. You can see it's sloping nature. Belsey's Cottage is just located here at the end of the field, and so the garage would be kind of in the foreground in front of Belsey's Cottage. So this is the site plan associated with this proposal. So the site itself is clearly the site that's edged in red, located here. So confirming the point of access would be from that existing field entrance here, with the new garage located relatively centrally within the application site. Importantly, the blue line, that is the line that identifies land that is also in control of the applicant. So that extends to Belsey's Cottage and also the remainder of the field as well. So it is land under their control. There's also there's a strip that is out with their control, which is located here. This is the existing outbuilding that we saw in certainly the aerial images shown here. And other buildings on the opposite side of the road. Just some elevation drawings of the proposed garage itself. So yes, a relatively simple pitch roof structure. So that would it's approximately 3 meters to eaves height, 12 meters in length, and 8 meters in width. That would have a relatively high kind of door. It seems like one of those kind of roller doors that would go up and over. It would be clad in larch cladding, set under some kind of a metalled profiled roof cladding structure. And just below shows you, I guess, the footprint of the building, which would extend to 96 square meters. So a building of relative size. So this is just a visual that shows you what the structure could potentially look like. So I would imagine it would be the public road would be on the opposite side of this hedge, and just get an idea of the scale of the building. Obviously, we have no guarantees that this is drawn precisely to scale, but it gives you an idea of its size. We have kind of a car and obviously a human there that gives you an indication of kind of comparable scale of the structure. So finally, this is this would be the plan, certainly the indicative plan that was approved for the consent for a dwelling house on this site. So the application site itself was this area here, and this showed potentially where a house could be constructed in this area here, and also its point of access. So effectively, the point of access is the same as the access that would serve this dwelling unit. with the garage building located approximately here within the site. But as I said, that consent is only planning permission in principle, so that is not a detailed plan or an agreed plan in terms of the positioning of the house. What would be required if that in principle consent was to be taken forward would be for the applicants to come back with a detailed application to confirm the precise siting, design, appearance of the dwelling house, and I think possibly along with access details as well. But certainly it is material to consider obviously the existence of that existing permission and any implications that it may have on the proposal to now erect a garage, certainly within part of the same field in terms of where this dwelling unit would be erected. So by way of consultations and representations, Roads Planning have objected where they remain concerned that the formation of a new formalised access at this point would adversely affect the safety of the C-class public roads. Roads Planning also objected to this point of access for the dwelling house proposal as well. In terms of supported information, the review has been supported by an appeal statement as well, along with the plans that we have looked at, including some indicative images of the proposed building. By way of principal issues then, so again, this site is not allocated within the local development plan. Therefore, key policies for you to consider are those covering greenfield sites, specifically NPF 4 Policy 9, sustainability matters within LDP Policy PMD1, and also design considerations within NPF 4 Policy 14 and LDP Policy PMD2. So the appointed officer identified that the site of the proposed garage is located out with the curtilage of the existing dwelling unit. Although the site benefits from planning permission for a new house, that consent has not been implemented, therefore the land remains a greenfield site. Extending into the greenfield site to provide additional domestic purposes associated with Belsey's Cottage was not deemed to be supported by NPF 4 Policy 9 or any LDP policy provision. Visually, the siting of a garage away from its associated dwelling house, coupled with its large scale, would result in a sporadic form of development that harms the visual amenity of the rural area. It appears possible that the existing residential plot has capacity to accommodate a garage, which would avoid the less sustainable encroachment of the garage into the adjacent land, where such a development could compromise the future detailed development of the site for its consented separate residential purpose. In terms of the new access, although this point of access was approved to serve a new dwelling unit, if the dwelling house is completed, then this latest proposal would add further traffic to an access which has restricted visibility onto the public road and adds to the hazard created by cars waiting to turn into the site. So the applicants, they've judged that it has previously been determined that the site is within the nucleus of the building group at Belsey's, where it does not extend out with its sense of place and into greenfield land. The site is judged to be compact and adds to the existing residential plot in a sensitive manner. The proposal is strictly ancillary to Belsey's Cottage and has been specifically designed and sited to store vehicles and machinery, with its design and material finish being sympathetic to agricultural buildings, and it's possible that landscape measures can provide screening and enhance the site's biodiversity credentials. It is advised that the site would be served via an existing shared access, and as the proposal relates to an existing residential unit, the development would not increase traffic movements. So no other issues were raised in the determination of this application. Members, the land is located out with the site of the existing residential unit, and while the site benefits from planning permission for a separate dwelling house, no change of use has yet taken, no physical change of use has yet taken place. Therefore, do you consider that the development of this land for residential purposes associated with Belsey's Cottage represents a development that is explicitly supported by Policy 9 of NPF4 and any policy provision within the LDP? And if so, does the scale and siting of the garage respect the character of the rural area required by NPF4 Policy 14, LDP Policy PMD2? Finally, are you satisfied that this development would not adversely affect road safety as required by Policy PMD2 Criteria Q? Taking this and all relevant matters in your papers into account, you may either uphold the appointed officer's decision and reject the proposal, or overturn the decision and approve the development subject to any conditions you deem necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shearer. I turn now to Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think they're putting the cart before the horse here. I think I'd rather prefer if the house was built and we know where the heck it is, and then we could add the garage afterwards. However, that's my opinion. So I think this, as a result of that, is contrary to policies 9 and 14 of the NPF Framework 4 and policies PMD1 and PMD2 of the Local Development Plan, as it would constitute unsustainable and inappropriate development on a greenfield site within the countryside. So I will uphold the officer's decision, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Douglas.
Yes, thank you. The proposed site is out with the curtilage of the existing cottage. It's actually within the proposed site of the property that we had given permission to previously. But the fact is that this garage is to do with Belsey Cottage. It's not to do with the new development. So it's not, as Councillor Scott's mentioned, the cart before the horse in a sense, because it's not the garage for the new proposed property. It's for the existing house. So in a sense, it cuts across the existing permission. That also adds, I think, to the issue of the road access, because there were issues before about the road access, and I think one of the conditions previously was that the road access had to be agreed with officers. The existing design wasn't acceptable, and works needed to be made to bring that into acceptance. I think we're actually adding to that problem here, because you're not only talking about that garage and the existing access to the outbuildings, but also potentially, if the existing permission is ever enacted, you'll have access then to that new house and maybe a garage as well with that. So I think the whole scale of this is beyond what's acceptable. I think the officers just have it spot on here.
Thank you. Councillor Richards.
Thank you, Chairman. This has got multiple permissions from us to go ahead, but they haven't gone ahead. I'm looking at a picture of obviously a hardcore area where cars are parked at the moment. I'm inclined to support this application because I think that its use would be obvious, and I don't think the access problem is much of a problem. So I support the app and not the officers.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Richards. Councillor Small.
Yeah, it doesn't sit that well with me. I think it's a bit distance away from the original cottage. So is it going to benefit the new property that's proposed to be built, or is it for the cottage? I think, I think on the corner there as well, you're going to create more traffic coming onto that road. And it looks as though it could be a dangerous entrance or exit. So I think the officers have called it right on this case, but I'll listen to my fellow colleagues and see what's up. I think the officers have called it right. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. And I'd like to say thank you to Councillor Douglas as well, because he laid out quite clearly, I think, what the issue is here. The roads officers have been consistent in their concerns over the access. And I think that this application will just add to that. I think the sharing of the drive, whilst it might seem logical, we still have no idea what's coming with the new design because it's an in principle. So I think that the officers have called this right, and I am wanting to support the roads team. I know that there is a planning permission principle already being granted, but I do think we are in danger. There's houses coming across the road, so there is going to be more traffic in that area, and I think it would be wrong not to give that due attention. I think also maybe the scale of what's being proposed is quite large as well. So yeah, I am supportive of the officers in this one. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, colleagues. It seems to me that this, I'd be reluctant to approve this application without having clear idea what the applicants plan to do with the existing planning permission in principle. You know, what are they going to do with that house? Because if I were thinking of building a house on that site, on the consented site, I'm not sure I'd want an agricultural style building parked beside me, which could obstruct my view, could obstruct my access, so without knowing what the plans are, the fact is this is a consented site, and that consent is extant. So without a clearer idea, I think it'd be foolish to approve this application, whatever its merits, and I'm not sure there are many, but that there are merits. So I would uphold the officer's decision at this stage. Thank you, colleagues. Councillor Richards, are you minded to? No. Thank you. You've done the maths. Okay. Colleagues, we're agreed then to uphold the officer's decision. Thank you. Okay, we turn now to item 7. Any other items previously circulated? There are none. And item 8, any other items which the chairman decides are urgent? There are none. So thank you. And that's the end of today's meeting. Please wait while the live stream is ended and then enjoy the rest of the day.